welcome back. And perhaps you haven't known about the Logos Theater, but it is the Academy, it's part of the Academy of Arts, and it is located in this area of the upstate, in the Taylors area. And they have a great outreach to the community, and especially, I think, to young people. And I'm so pleased to have two special people here today. And first of all, presenting this from the theater, the Logos Theater, is Dylan Pruitt over here.
Noah Statton, yes, ma'am.
And then also I have Douglas Gresham, and he is the stepson of C.S. Lewis. So we have two very distinguished people here today. And, you know, we're talking about young people and about the theater. Now, you do several performances a year, and you're not looking for union members and
Right.
professional. You're looking to involve the community.
Yes, ma'am, that's right. We want this to be a benefit, not simply of coming and people getting to come and see a nice production, but much more than that. They can come be involved in it, and when they see that, so many wonderful things and life lessons and principles that they're learning through this. And so we want to kind of make it a holistic process where they come and they're going to help out, and they'll probably be on crews as well, a makeup crew, a costume crew, a set crew, so that they realize every part is important. And that's a wonderful spiritual truth that we always put in there, is that every gift that you're given is important to the body of Christ moving forward. And so it's a great teaching tool with the arts of realizing every part, no matter how visible you are or maybe behind the scenes you are, your part is necessary for the whole product to be a success.
So if somebody out there doesn't particularly want to appear on stage, there are still other things they can do.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
it's all a learning experience.
That's right, that's right. They can be involved in a set crew and a makeup crew, volunteering for ushering people in. There's so many different ways to come and get involved, and we love involving the community.
Well, we're honored to have you here in the upstate of South Carolina. And tell us what brought you to this particular event.
Well, I've known South Carolina and North Carolina for quite a while, off and on. But when I found out that this particular script was being written, I was pretty excited about it to start with. We did a movie of Prince Caspian a while ago, and I was interested to see how they were going to translate the story in the book onto stage in a form that will perform the various different facets of theatre that Noah is talking about. Because it's not an easy book to translate into theatrical stage performances. So I was kind of intrigued that he would even try this particular one. When I got the script, I was quite excited by it, and I thought this is potentially going to be really good. So I got involved with as I always do, with helping the script be as good as it possibly could be. And then when they invited me to come over and watch what was happening, I was thrilled. And as I always say, you know, if you're a member of a cast and crew or any production, you're part of a very large expanded family, all of whom have their own little tasks to perform like any other family. And it gels, you become a unit. They often talk about theatrical units. The unit is made up of people whose specializations are widely different, and yet they all have to get along and mesh together on stage. And I think that teaches enormously powerful lessons to young people. And it's the involvement of young people that is so important. Getting them away from the television sets, getting them away from the rather foolish video games that we have these days, getting them into something which is real and they can actually handle and discuss with their colleagues in the unit. I think it's so important. I think this is a wonderful ministry.
And they learn to communicate.
Exactly,
right.
exactly.
Because I find that many young people, they don't carry on conversations.
That's right.
They're
They do it with
glued to
texting.
the television.
They do it with texting if they're conversing at all. It's with two thumbs.
Yeah.
You know, it's
That's it.
kind of crazy, you know.
And I think that's very sad.
I do. I agree with you. I agree with you completely.
And to learn to speak, you know, I love the English language. And I think it's very sad that many of our young people do not speak well.
Yes, that's true in many countries, I'm afraid.
Not just
supposedly
here.
English-speaking countries. It's true all over the world. I think the languages we use are slowly being deliberately, by the enemy of mankind and God, degraded till they mean less and less, till eventually we'll be grunting at each other again the way we started. And one of the things that will prevent that is programs like Noah's productions. and other productions in other parts of the world that I also help with. These bring people back to reality, bring children back into reality as opposed to the electronic world which doesn't really exist.
So you literally travel the world.
I travel the world all the time. As one of my friends who's an air hostess said the other day, I do more air miles than she does. But that's not quite true, but I know what she means. I'm in airplanes a lot. I enjoy flying, which is good. I'd have to, or I'd go crazy if I didn't, I suppose.
But you just recently were in, would you say Australia?
Well, I live part of my time in Australia. I have 3 sons and 10 grandchildren out there, and I own properties out there, so I'm out in Australia probably 3 months of each year if I can organise it. But just recently I was in Belfast in Northern Ireland, opening a new C.S. Lewis Square there, which turned out to be a much larger involvement than I thought it was going to be. The Prime Minister showed up with her cabinet. The American consul showed up. The Lord Mayor of Belfast was there, and 2,000 people showed up. I was mobbed. It was just unbelievable. It was a lot of fun, and very cold, mind you. They had me standing under a snow machine in a frosty night to have photographs taken. But it was a wonderful experience to realize that so many people in Belfast have now realized that my stepfather grew up in that town, and they wanted to celebrate it. And I was very, very happy to go over and open the square for them on that basis.
So in a way, you're there for him.
Yes, exactly that. I was there for Jack himself. And there are 7 lovely statues, Narnian statues they've erected in the square. And it's a lovely place now. It was wasted before, now it's absolutely beautiful. And it represents Jack himself.
Tell us a little bit, you call him Jack. Tell us a little bit about C.S. Lewis.
Well, Jack was an extraordinary man in many ways. He was probably the highest intellect I've ever encountered in my life, with the exception perhaps of my mother, who was about on the same level as he was. These were 2 people absolutely enisled on pinnacles of their own intellectual abilities and knowledge. And it was almost inevitable that if they met, they would fall in love, and they did. Regrettably, of course, because my mother died of cancer about 4 years after they were married. They had a very short time together. But it was the happiest time of either of their lives. They were beautiful people, both of them. Jack also had an enormous sense of humor. You couldn't be with Jack in a room for 5 minutes without roaring with laughter. The dinner table conversations at our dinner table at the Kilns, our home in Oxford, were hilarious. If I had had a tape recorder under the table, I would have sold those things for fortunes, you know. But alas, it wasn't to be. They were wonderful people. It was a wonderful time and a very difficult life. I mean, my mother was dying of cancer, and yet she fought it bravely right to the very end, and was still making jokes about her cancer as she died. Jack was completely destroyed by her death for a while. He wrote a book about it. It's called A Grief Observed. Turns out to be the greatest treatise on grief, I think, ever written. If you know anyone who's just lost someone or is about to lose someone, buy them a copy of A Grief Observed. It will show them how to cope with what they're about to get into. And I buy it in batches of a dozen and give it away all the time. Fabulous.
That's wonderful. Yeah.
He analyzed his own grief, where it was coming from, and what it was doing to him, so other people would learn how to cope with it. It's a very beautiful book. But he also wrote all these lovely books for children, the Narnian Chronicles, one of which is going on stage with Noah's production company very shortly. And from what I've seen and heard so far, I haven't yet sat in on a rehearsal, but I think it's going to be fabulous. I think it's going to be very good indeed.
And the dates of this again?
December 16th and 17th, and then we'll pick back up again after New Year's, January 5th through the 21st. And we are interested to get Mr. Gresham's take here on some of those effects, because that was actually something my wife, who's the artistic director and is directing these productions, someone actually brought this idea to her to do The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and she at first said, no way, because there are just so many tricks and magic things that need to happen to really do the story justice, and we didn't want to do a cheap version. We wanted to do it right, but we eventually tried it, and thankfully...
Incidentally, this is the attitude you're hearing now that brings me to a place like North Carolina or to Manila in the Philippines. When someone says, we don't want to do a cheap version, we don't have a lot of money,
want to do it right.
we don't want to do a cheap version, we want to get it right.
Yes.
That's the production I'm looking for, always.
And I think it's going to be, I'm interested to see his take on there's some massive tricks we have to do, a very big special effects.
All right, so now this is coming up very soon.
That's right. This weekend is our first 3 performances, and then in January.
And I have the phone number and the information here in case you didn't get it, but this is something for the whole family.
That's right.
Absolutely.
So you can take your kids, your grandparents, and make an occasion of it.
I hope that when I'm a little bit older than I am now, my kids will start taking me things like this. And my kids' kids can start taking me to them too.
Well, we're just honored to have you here
Thank you.
in South Carolina.
It's a pleasure to be
and
here.
share a little time with us. We appreciate
do
that
it.
very much. And let's give one big plug now to this theater that you have. Tell everybody tell them where it is and how they can get involved.
That's right. It's the Logos Theater, located right in downtown Taylor's, right off of Main Street. It used to be the old Taylor's Elementary
All right.
School. A lot of people that knew that formally
All right.
can plug that in. So it's right there. It's really starting to grow. It's been growing the last few years. The Lord's doing some great things. So please, yeah, we'd love for anyone to come get involved, come be a part of a production, or definitely come and see it. And it's neat to see the progression of how people will get involved. They may not think, well, I'm not an actor, so they'll come and help backstage with something, but they'll be kind of watching the whole time. And then all of a sudden they say, oh, maybe I could just walk on, and then, oh, maybe I'll be in it, and they grow.
Opportunities,
You get an
and
actor
you
at the
have
end. That's right.
opportunities for young people, for teenagers, and
This is
so
right.
forth.
This
That's
is elementary,
important.
high school, college, and adult.
We are out of time. Thank you, sir, for coming.
pleasure
God bless
indeed.
you.
It's lovely to
Thank
meet
you.
you.
Thank you very much for
Good
your time.
luck.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll be there.
Great,
Okay,
wonderful.
wherever you are, we wish you joy, and we'll see you next time.